Welcome. My name is Walter Meyer. I'm a professor at Parsons New School in New York City and founding principal of local office Landscape Urban Design in Brooklyn, New York. And welcome to the session. We just finished an incredible session with Martha Schwartz, and it's great to be a part of this event, Design Impact. It's a global design leadership speaker series sponsored by the Harvard Graduate School of Design Alumni Council. These virtual events bring together outstanding rosters of global thought leaders to share their work and vision, challenging us as a global community to use design as a tool for actionable, transformative change and healing. This ongoing series is free and open to all. I'm thankful to our speakers and all the amazing people who made this possible today, but especially to you, the audience. We're so thankful to have you here with us today. Today's session, titled Regenerative Design, an Ecosystemic Approach to Transformative Development, addresses the urgency of the escalating climate crisis. Now, every time that we get reports back to the IPCC, as the models have shifted from preliminary 2D models showing slower rates of change in the Arctic to 3D models where it's accelerating exponentially. Each report we're learning that the curve is accelerating, both in our information, our technology, our knowledge. And historically, policy, at least global policy and national policies, have been driven by science-led global policy on climate change, which is an important piece to decision making. But what's emerging more and more is, in the age of regenerative thinking, it is to have community as well as science and policy, and have indigenous-led thinking. Indigenous-led thinking is not just about equity, although that's a very important part of bringing that to the table, but indigenous-led thinking gives us knowledge going back to the last ice age that is intact through the lived experience, the human experience, to give us that bottom-up and middle-out complement to the top-down policy that comes from science. So today we have, an incredible mix of policymakers, designers, and most importantly, indigenous leader, who is both a leader in the tribe as well as a national policymaker for our country. Our next speaker kind of riffs off of one of Amanda's questions, which is, are we capable of putting nature first? And she also points out the contradiction of the current growth model. And this next speaker, Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, has been doing just that. How do you hack the existing growth model and build a bridge between the economy and nature? Carlos is a lawyer by profession, politician by choice, and conservationist at heart. Carlos Manuel Rodriguez was elected as CEO and chairperson of the Global Environment Facility by its governing body, the GEF Council, in June 2020. Carlos is a Tico, former Costa Rican Environment and Energy Minister. He was the pioneer in the development of payment for ecosystem services initiatives and strategies for forest restoration, ocean conservation, and decarbonization, and is an internationally recognized expert on environmental policy, multilateral environmental negotiations, and financing for nature conservation. During his 3 terms as Minister of Environment and Energy in Costa Rica, he doubled the size of the forest, and he made its electric sector 100% renewable, and consolidated the national park system that has positioned the Central America country as a prime ecotourism destination. Costa Rica has really shown us the way, and its people and this trauma-free population have shown us the way to be, and is on par with Iceland and renewable nations to show us how an entire country can be renewable. Now let's roll video so Carlos Manuel can also show us the light.
Thanks. My name is Carlos Manuel Rodriguez. I'm the CEO of the Global Environment Facility. And as you know, I was the Minister of Environment and Energy of Costa Rica. Indeed, Costa Rica has been able to achieve a lot of ground in many of the sustainability aspirations as a nation. Probably the most important one has been, the combination of reverting the rate of deforestation, doubling the size of our forests at the same time that the country tripled the size of the economy and the population doubled. We did that while we went 100% renewable energy in the electric sectors. This means that Costa Rica is not generating emissions, carbon emissions from the energy sector or electric sector or the land use sector into the atmosphere, which are the two main sources of carbon emissions from all countries at the planet level. We were able to do this because we first build on a long-term investment that Costa Rica has done in education and health. Costa Rica in the last 100 years went from being one of the poorest nations in the Western Hemisphere into being, in the top 3 countries in that same region in terms of human development. That gave us the possibilities to be able to really concentrate and set very ambitious goals and targets in the sustainability agenda. So that's one clear element. 2 other elements were key. And I think that these are elements that we are understanding, putting it together and working with countries, which is the market and the institutional failure. Our economic model, this I would say irrational economic model that aims for unlimited growth without recognizing planetary boundaries, doesn't reflect the good or the bad that we do in terms of managing natural resources, what we call the natural capital. So it won't be until we began setting the right political, economic policies and regulations by which we can fully recognize the good and the bad that we do with nature that we will be able to do progress. So we pollute the rivers, we destroy the forests, we destroy the coral reefs, and that is not reflected in the economic analysis of countries. We need to develop policies that fully internalize those negative human activities. At the same time that we should be doing the other piece, which is financially rewarding those who restore or protect natural ecosystems. So that way we can use the economic system in our favor. So that means creating new incentives, phasing out subsidies, generating a green tax reform are all elements that help us deal with the market failure. Costa Rica has been very smart and successful in bringing these new economic approaches. We're still not there, but we have learned that this does generate us a lot of environmental profits and benefits. The other piece that we work a lot for the last 20, 25 years is working on the second failure, which is the institutional failure. We need to do institutional adjustments. It's not just strengthening one agency, one institution. It's not creating new environmental agencies that we will fix the problem of the need for sustainability. It is until we understand that we need to do major surgery at the institutional level that we will be able to create the institutional framework for sustainability. And this means that we need to break with what we have organized and worked in governments by creating many agencies dealing with many different natural resources. We got an agency for energy, an agency for mining, an agency for water, and another for natural resources, another for climate, and another for biodiversity protected areas. That model, that framework has proven not to be effective. We need to move from this sectoral silo institutional framework into something that matches the need for more coherence and holistic approaches. So we need to move towards a landscape, seascape institutional approach. In Costa Rica, the Minister of Environment is also the Minister of Energy, Mines, Water, Protected Areas, and Biodiversity, giving us those unique institutional conditions for being successful in the implementation of policies that requires a mainstreaming effort within all political sectors. There won't be any environmental sustainable solution without the participation and the full engagement of civil society, particularly indigenous communities and farmers communities. This is the approach and the objectives that we promote at the Global Environmental Facility, where we've been engaged for more than 30 years with civil society and different sectors in 150 plus countries where we've been working. The solution to many of these environmental problems requires a national as well as a sub-national approach, a top-down, a bottom-up approach, and governments alone in itself won't be able to consolidate progress and achieve important outcomes without the full participation of civil society. Civil society needs the minimum enabling conditions to be part of the solutions. And here's where the GF supports strategic funding, strategic technical assistance to civil society to be part of the solution. The GF resources looks to support countries in the implementation of their international environmental agreement, and this is a mixture, an effort that mixes the role of private sector, the role of governments, and civil society. We will continue to work with civil society. We aim to increase the support of civil society because without them, there won't be any long-lasting solutions. Thank you so much.
Carlos, Manuel, gracias por eso. Thank you so much for that information. Carlos helped us set the frame on the policy discussion in today's panel, complementing Amanda's frame through design thinking. Now we're shifting to Stefanie. We now shift to the millennial scale of thought. Stefani's thinking will take us through millennia and perhaps think another millennia forward, the kind of long now conversation. Stefanie Burton is a Kalinago tribe member. She presently serves as the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Youth Development and Empowerment in the public service of the Commonwealth of Dominica. Dominica is a micronation in the Eastern Caribbean. She has previously worked as a permanent secretary in the Ministry of Social Services, Community Development and Gender Affairs, and the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs, the Ministry of Foreign and CARICOM Affairs, and the Ministry of Trade, Energy, and Employment. In many ways, Stefanie is both an indigenous leader of one of the last intact tribes in our hemisphere, especially in the Caribbean. It's very rare for an indigenous population to be connected to their land. And she's also a national leader of policy within her nation, much like the work of Carlos Manuel Rodriguez. Ms. Burton has worked extensively in the development of her Kalinago people and has served as secretary of the Kalinago Council, community development assistant, and district development officer for the area, and development officer in the Ministry of Kalinago Affairs. She has also worked as civil society resource officer for the Dominica Social Investment Program, a program funded by the European Union. Stefanie was also a member of the Carifuna Cultural Group. This is the oldest cultural group within the Kalinago territory, who serves to revive and assist with the preservation of the cultural heritage of the Kalinago people. She has represented the Kalinago people at numerous indigenous conferences in Latin and North America. Stefanie, please share us your deep knowledge. Take it away.
Thank you, Walter, and good morning to all participants in this session. Indigenous peoples are essential to the success of policies and measures directed towards mitigating and adapting to climate change, especially to our sustainable economic model and traditional knowledge. The ILO Convention number 169 advocates for a just transition, for empowering Indigenous women and men, and ensuring that they can emerge as partners for achieving sustainable development and strong climate action. My Kalinago tribe will live on the only indigenous reservation in the entire Eastern Caribbean. We have lived and survived on this reservation for well over 100 years. Our ancestors, like us, have witnessed the devastating effects of climate change brought about by what we know as the destruction of Mother Earth. Today, I will present some slides that will indicate to us that the indigenous people have always been right as it pertains to ensuring that climate change does not destroy our land. Okay, so this slide is a depiction of a small area within the Kalinago territory known as the Kalinago Barana Oti, or what we refer to in English as the Kalinago village by the sea. It is a traditional village built as a tourist attraction, but also a village that can identify with the indigenous people being close to Mother Earth and utilizing whatever Mother Earth has provided for our sustainable development. This village, which has been in existence for pretty close to 30 years, requires very little maintenance. And whatever maintenance has to be done, it is grown right here, there on that portion of land. And so, as I present the various slides, you will see how we as indigenous people are so close to Mother Earth. We are so close that we do not destroy anything that Mother Earth has given to us, but instead we utilize it for our sustainable development. This slide is a depiction of our lives. So we see the rocks out there, which is an area where our Kalinago people swim out to be on that rock to do fishing, sustainable fishing that would ensure that we have food on our table, that our communities do not go hungry, but that it is done in a sustainable way. The Catholic Church here, it is built in one of the traditional designs of the Kalinago people. Although it is a building that is done with modern day material, the architecture is Kalinago. The other slide, which says cassava bakery, is how the Kalinago people utilize, again, the land to plant mayok, to make cassava bread instead of utilizing white flour bread. So that in itself is a nutritious aspect of the life of the Kalinago people. Again, one of the structures here shows a section of the Kalinago Barana Oti, which I will speak about in a little while. And the next slide says 1,000 years of hurricane-proof building. This building, as I mentioned earlier, was built over 30 years ago. And on September 18, 2017, my country suffered from a Category 5 hurricane. We got a direct hit as a result of climate change. And here it is that this structure, which was built by the Kalinago people, utilizing local material, has withstood this Category 5 hurricane. We lost a few of the thatch, which is, again, something that is grown right next to the structure. If you visit the site, you will see that it is grown right there, and you can just take it, dry it in the sun without any mechanization, and here it is. We have a beautiful building that can withstand any tropical system that affects us. We can see in the next slide, if we were to look at the next slide, the destruction that was caused by Hurricane Maria in 2017. We can see we can look at the two structures, the first slide that was shown, as well as this slide. It gives you a comparison of which one can withstand climate change, which one can withstand the force of a hurricane so powerful. Hurricane Maria was over 200 miles an hour. And we can see the destruction to the modern structure, a concrete building that the hurricane destroyed. Whereas this traditional building withstood and is still standing strong. It gives us an idea as to how it is that traditional knowledge can ensure that our climate is not destroyed or continues to be destroyed, but that our climate, our traditional knowledge can help us to ensure that we live with nature, we do not destroy nature, and we reduce the impact of climate change on our countries. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see in the very next slide, we got two hurricanes weeks apart in 1979, and we can see the level of destruction, but not one Kalinago person of the indigenous tribe died in any of the storms. And that is because, again, of the indigenous knowledge, how we relate to Mother Earth, how we ensure that the things that we do, the practices that we utilize, the knowledge is in keeping with Mother Earth and is ensuring that we do not continue to destroy the climate. If we look at the other slide, we move on. The Kalinago territory had a lot of loss during Hurricane Maria in 2017. A lot of the modern day houses that were constructed with modern day designs were destroyed. But those that were constructed more than 60 years ago, utilizing local lumber, utilizing in the design, having the roofs done in the design of an A-frame, which is, if you want to say a capital A, they were nothing happened to them because, again, of the indigenous knowledge. And we know, if we look at the other slide, it is known at the highest level of decision making. And as you can see here, the UN Secretary General visited Dominica post-Hurricane Maria. And the Prime Minister also visited the Kalinago territory. You can see that the policymakers at the highest level know that indigenous knowledge is what is really required to ensure that whatever policies are put in place will not continue to destroy Mother Earth. And so the UN Secretary General visited the Kalinago territory post-Hurricane Maria. If you look at the back of that, you can see that there is this house with a roof built with an airship that withstood the storm. And so I am of the opinion that our policymakers are fully aware that traditional knowledge and indigenous knowledge is what needs to be assisting us when we make policies as it pertains to ensuring the survival of the planet Earth and our environment. Ladies and gentlemen, the Kalinago heritage can show us that we can coexist, that both modern technology as well as indigenous knowledge can coexist. And in many spheres, it is the indigenous knowledge that will really assist us in saving our communities. Here it is, we can see that this traditional structure can be used for our homes, it can be used for our other activities, social activities, it can be used to park our vehicles, it can be used for making of restaurants and all other things. We know for sure the regenerative building that we see, that picture that we see, can be utilized anywhere in modern society. If we look at it, we can see that it has a component of modernization, but the major part of this structure that has lived on for a number of years, no matter what the atmosphere throws at us, we can say that we can interrelate both of these, the modern structure and the local structure, to make it beautiful one, to make it strong two, and to make it conducive to nature. The other slide that we look at, you see that these buildings, these two structures will soon be refurbished. But we will not spend any money to refurbish these structures because the material to recover the structure is planted right there and grown right there. We dry it in the sun, which is natural, and then we put it on the roof. And so the structure tells us that we do not have to harvest materials all the time. So, like for the Kalinago tribe, we live on 3,700 acres of land, which is very small. And so we are very cognizant of the fact that we need to survive on this portion of land. And so we have to ensure the sustainability. And hence the reason why when we build our structures, we do not have to go back to the forest time and time again. But we go back to the forest 50, 60, 100 years down the road. We have structures that are built that 3, 4 generations have lived in. And so we are able to ensure that we do not destroy the little bit of land that we have and forest that we have, because the forest ensures that we have water, that we have freshwater fish, and we are also able to build our structures. The last slide that I am showing, it is an extension of the land. It looks at how we as Kalinago people can live on a little bit of land. We can build modernized structures, because one of the structures here, it does not have grass thatch as its roof, but it has wood thatch as its roof. And nothing happened during those climatic conditions. So we are able as Kalinago people and indigenous people to always pass on the knowledge that we have gained from our ancestors. I want to say that the Kalinago tribe, like all indigenous tribes, have a spiritual relationship with nature. And if only the policymakers understand that relationship that indigenous tribes have with nature, we would be willing to sit with them, develop policies that do not affect our climate. We believe that all living things are connected. We believe that Mother Earth must be protected. Trees give us oxygen and we give them carbon dioxide. That's common knowledge. We plant crops, tend to them, and they give us sustenance. As indigenous people, we have always known at the spiritual level what science has established, that all of nature is made up of the same chemical compounds, just in different proportions. We are intricately connected. And if only all of our policymakers would understand the relationship, then we would all survive and live for the rest of our generations to come. We take from nature with reverence. That's what indigenous people do. Only what we need to survive. We have shared the gifts of nature in our indigenous communities. Indigenous people create a very small footprint in nature, and we live within our carrying capacity. But we are some of the people who are most impacted by policies that do not fit into the relationship between our survival and the survival of our planet. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stefanie. Thank you for sharing the knowledge of generations before you, being a knowledge carrier of your culture, It's not only about cultural preservation, it's not only about equity. I've learned you can help society save us from ourselves. And I want to make sure that that knowledge, that information is not just a one-way road. There's a history of extraction, with the indigenous. And I want to make sure that, we discuss that today. And so an important question for you, is what are current day issues of governance, policy, and society that most affect the existence of the Kalinago? And the second part to that question is, how can today's academic community best serve as allies in furthering their independence, prosperity, and climate justice?
Okay, Walter. The Kalinago people have been historically affected by international land policies and laws based on the genocidal, ethnocentric legal precedents that stem from doctrine of discovery. Having occupied all the lands from St. Croix in the north to Trinidad in the south, we currently only own 3,700 acres on Dominica. Our name for Dominica, or Kalinago name, is White Kubuni. We are affected by a land tenure system based on this same doctrine that has denied our people access to credit, which is a fundamental component of the same extractive system, which means we can't even participate equally. We can't access credit to assist in our development like other inhabitants of our land. Stemming from this genocidal colonial occupation is an education system that glorifies European Holocaust of indigenous people, including the Kalinago, an extractive economic system that is poisoning our soil and our waters with chemicals, and that are illegal in the US and Britain. The Western media and governments continue to drive a wedge between science and spirituality, further exacerbating the destruction of the planet and negatively impacting indigenous communities like the Kalinago, whose philosophy is the antidote to climate change and who predicted this catastrophe centuries ago. For us here in Dominica, upon the attainment of political independence from Great Britain in 1978, an act of parliament was passed known as the Kalinago Act of 1978. This established the boundaries of the reservation and gave credence to the office of the Kalinago Chief and Council. In the opinion of the Kalinago tribe, that act does not address any issues relating to the well-being, sustainability, and proper governance of our lands. The Kalinago chief, for example, is considered to be the leader of our tribe, but at the national level, the representation is according to political lines. And so we have, this is very divisive. There has been much talk about the Kalinago chief being the sole representative of the Kalinago people, but this has not been made good. The Kalinago people are of the opinion that the tribe should be given greater autonomy by the government of the country, and that is in direct relation to ILO 169. ILO 169 was ratified by Dominica in 2002, but has not been legislated. And so there is no implementation. With a communal land title, no one Kalinago can access credit at the facilities because of lack of collateral.
Yeah.
Bonnie,
we have about 5 minutes left in the presentation.
Okay, so I want to look at the second component of the question.
Yeah.
How can today's academics assist the Kalinago people? We need academic institutions to rewrite the history of colonization and to stop glorifying the stealing of indigenous lands, not only the Kalinago lands, and the genocide of indigenous people. I ask you, for example, Walter, where is the Indigenous Holocaust Museum? Academics must not be afraid to use the words genocide and Holocaust as it relates to colonization, and should stop using the word discovery to describe European expansion and genocide. Academia must acknowledge indigenous philosophy and spirituality, which is every day being substantiated by science. Academics can assist us by asking the Catholic Church to repeal, rescind, and dismantle the doctrine of discovery, which even the most liberal justices have used to justify stealing indigenous lands. It would be great to see academics and prestigious academic institutions like the Harvard University, for example, offer scholarships in the development and prosperity of the Kalinago people to help create a cohort of indigenous academics. We would like to see advocate for inclusion of the Kalinago people, our history, our cultural heritage into the history and cultural heritage of the Americas, because we are indeed part of the Americas. We are located in Central America. It would be great for the academic community to help share our journey and create links with other fellow indigenous tribes around the world. And finally, academics are well positioned to help indigenous communities in the development of natural herbs and medicinal plants to assist with our well-being and prosperity, and to assist with finding solutions to the many diseases that are now plaguing the world. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Stefanie. And on that spirit of, you know, the sharing the journey, I'd like to bring in the, to add to the discussion on the policy side. So Same Waba is the Global Director of the World Bank's Urban Disaster Risk Management, Resilience, and Land Global Practice based in Washington, D.C. And Same is joining us by video. For any of you that have watched the previous sessions, Same has been a part of a few other panels, but we have only a few minutes left. I wish there were more time for more questions. We'll have Same thoughts on gluing all the three presentations together. Same, what are your thoughts about the frame, the collapsing time scale that we've experienced today in this presentation?
Thank you, Walter. And I think those three presentations were a great reminder of the imperative for action now. So let me bring a policy perspective that would have been, let's say, in complement of what Carlos Manuel Rodriguez, the JET CEO, would have brought. And I think, you know, when you start thinking about how can we create those incentives for preserving nature, I mean, you can regulate everything that you want to do. You know, you can put disincentives, regulations, make it a compliance-based culture, but that's not likely to get us where we want it to be. So I think what you really want to have is a combination of instruments. The first is to really try to explain the value that exists. And I'm not just talking, I mean, we've heard about the cultural value, the spiritual value, these are very important. But I think, you know, talking about the economic value as well becomes important. You know, when you start looking at the valuation of ecosystems, at what you call the wealth accounting of nature, you treat nature like wealth, and you value it as such so that you can create, if you will, a discourse that preserves nature as, if you will, a very important contributor for communities. You add to that things like taxing carbon, you know, putting disincentives, you know, to this unfettered, if you will, production of carbon that's destroying the land, and at the same time create incentives for poor people who are the custodians of the land, who are living on the land, indigenous communities, but otherwise also in other areas, whether, you know, in urban areas, etc. Thinking about, you know, poor communities, rural urban expansions, farmers, where you start supporting their livelihoods around this custodianship of the land. So you've got something, you know, that is invariably called payment for environmental services or payment for ecosystem services, where you've got In Colombia, the ladies who live in poor communities whose job is to ensure that the expansion on, if you will, the mountain slopes doesn't happen, that these are protected. You've got the farmers who are in charge of ensuring that there is less sedimentation and stormwater runoff, so protecting the land, protecting water, etc., ensuring that, fishermen and farmers are also involved in the custodianship of the land. And through that custodianship, which benefits everyone, you provide, support, livelihoods for the protection of that land. So starting to think about a combination of the regulations that you need, but also the incentive and the support to the livelihood so that you can create, if you want, an integrated system. One last plug, we have been championing at the World Bank, work on nature-based solutions. We've worked with a group of different stakeholders on producing new guidelines, international guidelines for nature-based solutions, ensuring, and a catalog of solutions, whether they're wetlands, parks, whether green or blue solutions. And then lastly, thinking about integrating gray and green infrastructure, because throughout these solutions that you can have, if you will, integrated solutions that can preserve our land and value the land spiritually, culturally, but also economically, with it preserving that nature and living within our planetary boundaries. So with that, I'll hand it back to you, Walter.
Thank you. Yeah, and we've run short on time. We're over by a minute. I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up. We were hoping to take one of the student questions, but I'm going to go ahead and take us preparing for the next session. A huge thank you to these speakers for their wonderful presentations, and to GSD student Akriti Madan for the masterful input today. Thank you for your help with everything.